My name is Damien Miller. I'm the Head of Strategic Communications here at the Australian Embassy in Washington, DC, and it's a delight to be with you today. I'm a descendant of the Gungaloo people of Central Queensland, and I wanted to say Binbi Curry, which is greetings in my language, the Gungaloo language. I also want to acknowledge that I'm seated here tonight on the traditional lands of the Piscataway and Akatchtan people of the Washington DC area. So it's a great pleasure for the Australian Embassy to host everyone this evening. This is part of our celebrations for Reconciliation Week, which is still ongoing in Australia, and we've had a number of events here in Washington. It's a chance to reflect on Australia's unique Indigenous peoples who have been the custodians of the Australian continent for over 60 millennia. And as we'll see tonight, that also have many vibrant communities right across Australia, including the one we're going to visit tonight, which is Peppimenarti in the Northern Territory. And specifically, we're going to the Durrmu Art Centre. Really very thankful to be joined by such a respected leader in her community, but also in the arts world, Regina Pilawuk Wilson. We're hoping she will also be joined by her son, Henry Wilson. And we want to also thank the children and the members of the community who are with Regina today and who are going to perform for us shortly. So we're very excited to see that. I also wanted to quickly acknowledge Cade McDonald from Agency, which is an important Indigenous-led not-for-profit based in Melbourne that's really providing platforms for Indigenous people across Australia. So that's it for me. We're going to be having a fantastic discussion today about how the community in Peppimenarti are keeping their ancient traditions alive, and absolutely delighted to be joined by you, Regina, in particular. And so I might hand over to Cade and then to Regina, and thank everyone for joining us.
Thanks for welcoming us to this talk. I especially like to thank Regina and all her children and grandchildren and community members for joining us here. I would like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we all meet, vastly from all over Australia and North America, and anyone else joining us from other nations. I would like to hand this over to the community to do a traditional welcome, and the generosity shown by the community of Peppimenarti in all the ways that they invite new friends to their community. So I'd like to hand over to the songman and the dancers of Peppimenarti for a welcome.
Explain what the dancing is.
That's a song about a little bird walking around the water lilies. Traditional name is Karamidi. What that that's the Western European name is Indigenous. another name is, I think, Jesus bird. All right. Hukum na. Ano na? Tiada. That second song was about an owl. It's an owl dreaming.
Searching for beautifully homeland. We call it in our language is wuk wuk. This song is about fire. We call it in a language Yengi. They burn fire on the floodplain, on the land, for us to get ready for bush tucker.
The last one.
They're going to do the last one, Kate.
Okay, you want to do one more? Fantastic. We're loving it. I mean, it looks magnificent. So another one is fantastic. Thanks, Jerry.
Kon sininet. The last song is called Kerimindi. The little bird runs on the water lily looking for food.
Thank you so much, Regina. Thank you so much to everybody there. The songman, what an amazing, and the dancers, the women and the young children. I mean, what an amazing welcome to Peppimenarti. Thank you so much. And we can see from where I'm sitting, it looks warm, it looks beautiful. It's a gorgeous morning there. And what a generous gift that you've given us, bringing us into your community. So thank you so much. Thank you to Kirk for explaining some of those songs. Thank you to the songmen there. I think it's evident in this introduction, in this welcome to country by Regina and her family, it's evident that the intergenerational transfer of knowledge is rich, is ongoing. Culture is maintained and sustained really well in Peppimenarti. And that's what this talk is mostly about, is for some that have seen the video that was pre-recorded and on the link through the embassy, that video shows a tradition that for the most part hasn't been practiced in almost 40 years, and that's bark harvesting. And the community gathered together and had a discussion about the need to capture this knowledge and pass it on to the next generation before it was lost. So Henry Wilson, Regina's son, who I think is with us, he can see us, but I'm not sure he can actually join us. It wouldn't be a great Zoom meeting without a few glitches. So Henry, if you're there, thanks for joining us. And if you can, turn your audio on and we'll have a chat about it. But Henry was really instrumental in spearheading this idea of getting out on country and harvesting bark again. Regina, you know, it had been almost 40 years. Was it great for you to see the young men engaging with some of the senior elders and thinking about, you know, re-engaging bark harvesting?
It is special for the boys to learn about ancestors used to do many thousands of years ago. And now my son Henry and Kurt, Jeremiah, Nathan, starting bark harvesting, which is good for the boys to learn in the future to come.
They are the next generation of these knowledge holders, aren't they? They are the ones that will pass it on to your grandchildren and their children and so forth. Do we have Nathan and Jeremiah and Kurt in the background there that I can see? Guys, do you want to come into closer to the microphone so we can have a little bit of a chat? If you want to sit around that microphone, just so that all the listeners can get. So Jerry, Jeremiah Wilson, do you want to raise your hand there, Jerry? That's you in the middle, isn't it? Great to have you here. You're one of the arts workers at the Art Centre, which has been instrumental. Durrmu Arts has been instrumental in supporting this sort of traditional campaign of harvesting barks and getting back into the practice of bark paintings. You know, how do you feel about getting out on country and engaging in these traditional practices and having your fellow family members and your children come and watch you learn these techniques?
Yeah, very good to go take the families, you know, teach them knowledge, and yeah, it's good to pass it on, you know, to the next generation.
And that's your son with you there?
Yeah, this is my son, Brenton.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Brenton. How are you? Do you go out and collect bark with your father?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I mean, Jerry, we can clearly see that, you know, you're passing even the songs and the dancing down to your children and the other children of the community. Nathan Wilson, we've got on the left there. Hi, Nathan. How are you? Nathan is the leader of the community and the future custodian of the knowledge of that region and the leader of Peppimenarti. Nathan, when we first, as a community, when you guys first cut some barks, it must have been a couple of years ago now when you first actually started engaging in this project. You painted a painting, which, was that your first bark painting that you'd ever painted?
Yep.
Yep. And where is that bark painting now? Do you recall where it ended up?
Somewhere in America, I think.
Yeah, well, it's actually a really good story because the Australian Embassy in Washington, DC, who's co-hosting this talk, acquired that painting of yours, and it's now ended up at the Durrmu. I can see in the chat that Dr. Henry Skerritt, curator at the Durrmu, is with us, and that work now exists in their collection, which is magnificent. So Nathan, yourself, and Junior, who I don't believe is there, the two first bark paintings that had been painted in just under 40 years ended up in a collection in one of the most significant collections in the US, which is fantastic. Now, Nathan, do you feel like you want to re-engage and produce more bark paintings?
Yep.
And are you guys harvesting ochres as well as the barks to use as traditional paints? So, Regina and Jerry and Nathan, why is it important that you want to, you know, engage in these practices and not just continue to paint on canvas? Why is it important to go back to harvesting on country and painting with ochres?
Because it's the traditional way that our old people used to do back in the days.
In case.
We'd like to try and bring that back. Keep it alive. Keep it alive.
And I guess, as we've sort of witnessed here, the harvesting is also very much a community collective activity, isn't it? It's not an individual thing. You're going out with many generations of the family. As we're seeing this morning, you know, welcoming people to your community is not just one person welcoming, it's the entire community. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we've been quite fortunate with some support from the Northern Territory government to really engage in this harvesting project. And for those that have seen the film and those that haven't, I really encourage you to follow the link through the Embassy's website and have a look at that film that was produced on harvesting bark. Oh, we've got Henry there with us, who's just appeared on screen. Hi, Henry.
Hello.
Henry's in Darwin. I don't know if you've got any audio there, Henry. You might have to unmute. Just while Henry's doing that, Henry Wilson is Regina's son, who was very instrumental in sort of this idea of going back out on country, and through his position and his connections with the Northern Territory government, he was able to find us some collaboratively get some support through the government to fund this project and fund the film that has been made and is in that link. Regina, it's not just about bark harvesting, is it? It's also about harvesting meripin or sand palm or pandanus from your country. Can you tell us a little bit about that harvesting process and what that's used for?
We've been taking them girls out, harvesting meripin and yergi, and also natural colors from fruits and berries. And we've done it last week, stripping my grandchildren, stripping and dyeing. This is the sand palm. We call it meripin. We go out getting lots of them and strip them on the deck. And this is the color of a root. We call it palmage. And you get 3 colors out of this root: yellow, orange, and if you want red, you mix it up with ashes to make red. And the girls, last week, they made little earrings. They made 18 earrings to sell in Melbourne. That's what we've been doing. Because of the community unrest, I've been teaching them grandchildren at home. My 2 granddaughters teach them Bugam way. Bugam is Western world, to culture, a culture come first. In case they might lose it, it is the time to teach them when they are small. Because of the community unrest, we've been teaching our kids nearly 7 weeks. My 2 granddaughters teach them at home, beyond the house, on the lawn, Bugam way. And we had no support from the Peppimenarti school. The principal didn't support us. We got support from Divan with Ray and Natasha helping the kids with work. And we buy lunch for the kids with their own money. It is nearly 7 weeks, no help from education department. That's why culture is first to teach my grandchildren. It is important to pass it on for my grandchildren. It was passed from our grandparents, mothers and father. So we have to keep it up, learning the younger ones, so they don't lose their culture. Culture comes first. Bugam way comes second.
That's always been a really strong message in the community, hasn't it, Regina? That culture is the first classroom. And it's been an amazing initiative during COVID or even post-COVID, when the community's been locked down, for the community to really connect together and have these classes independently on the deck there at the Art Centre. I think I can see Leah in the corner of the screen there. Leah, Regina's granddaughter there. How are you?
All right.
You've been very instrumental in these cultural classes, haven't you, in teaching yourself and Dakota, both Regina's granddaughters, teaching
And Karen.
teaching the kids about the weaving. Do you want to tell us a little bit, Leah, about the classes and what you've been doing? Have you been harvesting and making earrings?
Yes.
And how many kids do you...
Whenever we got 16 kids, 4 away. They should be back next week.
And is the classroom where you're sitting right now, is that where you guys are teaching?
Yeah, we work every afternoon. We work on the deck, making earrings, making mats.
Fantastic.
And this is a classroom at the Art Centre deck. Every day, that's what we make.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about that, Regina.
Huh?
Tell us a little bit about that. What's that made of? How the process has happened for those in the audience that may not know.
This is wall mat, and we in the middle had a pendants, all natural dyes, and in the middle is sand palm. Sand palm I made around about 7 of them. One in Melbourne. Okay, you got one in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
This is the
Well,
wall mat.
So I'm in Melbourne at the moment, but I'm here in the office because we've got the courier coming today who's going to pick up your mat for an exhibition that you're in Winnipeg in gallery in Canada. It's part of a Tri-Nations exhibition between Canada, Australia and New Zealand, and your work is being picked up today and freighted across there. There's also simultaneously some work being picked up from Charlottesville, a gallery that you've exhibited at called 2nd Street there in Charlottesville, and those works will be shipped up to Winnipeg as well. So closer to the Australian Embassy in DC than we think, you know, than you might think. So it's passing by and heading to Winnipeg. Leah, you've travelled through America with Regina, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a few years ago, wasn't it? How was the trip?
Good. Was all right. Yeah, good trip.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, we've got some photos. For those that follow us, follow Durrmu on Instagram, there has been a bit of a takeover in the last week during reconciliation, and it's a reflection of the relationship that Peppimenarti has with the Australian Embassy in Washington. Thanks to all the workers at the embassy, a special thanks to Laura Nix, who has really helped facilitate that relationship. So if you are based in DC, Regina and Leah and Henry were there a few years ago and painted a mural at the Phillips Collection Museum in Washington. What's that mural of, Regina, in Washington that you painted?
It's a string game. String game, feet.
So string game being string that was... Sorry, string that was used to tell stories to the children?
Yeah.
Mm. And so you've painted that in the courtyard in the Phillips collection, haven't you?
Yeah.
So we still can't get Henry to join us, but Henry was there. Henry's been back a couple of times and revisited that mural, which is fantastic. And during both of those trips, spent quite a lot of time at the Kluge-Ruhe. So a big special thanks. I know that Henry Skerritt is in the audience. Very big special thanks to the Kluge-Ruhe, Margot Smith and Henry, who have been instrumental in supporting Peppimenarti and Durrmu Arts in their sort of endeavours to create more awareness and their generosity in sharing Peppimenarti's culture across globally. Jerry, you'd probably like to get over there one day soon, wouldn't you? You've been working with the Art Centre for how long?
Nearly 4 years now.
4 years. So you're effectively managing that art centre there, aren't you?
Yep.
And is it great to see that Leah and Dakota running those classes in the mornings?
Yeah. Good to see the kids on the day.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Kate. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you, Henry. Welcome. How are you?
Yeah, going all right. I had a bit of a rough morning.
Okay. So for anybody that's watching, Henry's adopted my name down there, but that's Henry Wilson. So Henry, you're in Darwin at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Henry, we might backtrack a little bit and just ask you quickly, you were one of the main reasons why the harvesting projects restarted again, especially the bark harvesting project. You know, tell us in your words why it was so important that you really pushed to make this activity happen, and how do you feel seeing and going out on country with some of the younger men and your sons and harvesting these barks?
Yeah, from my point of view, it's more like getting people engaged on to the country and preserve culture and language and everything that comes with it. As you know yourself, I've fronted the NT government about getting resources and seeking funding through NT government harm minimisation, and been working with the health centre as well as part of a collaborative on this project, and it seems to be going all right with leaps and bounds, and as you can see from the photos and everyone involved, people are happy, people are harvesting bark and seeing the country, and not only harvesting bark, harvesting other fibers and stuff, for the women to go back and start weaving, making dilly bags. So it's a win for everyone, the community. So, yeah.
It is. I mean, it is a huge success, Henry, and I mean your vision and your leadership has really been quite remarkable. As Regina pointed out, this is also a great source of income for the community, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in a natural sense, that obviously going out on country and harvesting the stuff and preparing, whether it's doing it on canvas, telling the same story in different ways, and it's actually creating a source of income, like you just said. Yeah.
I guess what's really interesting is historically these sorts of projects would have been funded through the arts, but you had some great foresight and reframed the funding as a way of creating more cohesive families and communities. It was a from memory, it's a grant that's received through the health department of the NT government. So, I guess your vision is that by going out on country and working together as a community, you're therefore creating healthier family groups and healthier communities. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so it's something that I've been working with the store, doing Durrmu Aboriginal Corporation, at Peppi, and even at Peppi Health. So yeah, it's a vision of being in your own mind and being happy, and just being in the right frame of mind, and having that good mindset. Obviously you live healthy, happier life.
Yep, yep. You know, I think it's a remarkable thing for people in the audience. You know, Peppimenarti is about over 400 kilometres southwest of Darwin. Is a small community of around 200 people. Is often cut off by floodwaters for up to sort of 4 or 5 months of the year, depending on the wet season, and is considered by many to be one of the sort of first communities of the homeland movement in the late 60s and early 70s, when Regina and her late husband left the Daly River mission and walked out to the traditional sacred lands of the people of Peppimenarti, the Nutting Chimeri and the Nutting Kurungul people, and established what is now a thriving cultural epicentre of that region. Henry, do you want to see this harvesting project continue beyond the funding and for it to be an activity that happens seasonally in the future?
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I'd like to see more of this type of stuff happening in community. You know, it gives them, you know, something to do, something to look forward to. Like we said, it brings, you know, source of income. Yeah, overall, I'd definitely like to, you know, get everyone's input, like, you know, young Jeremiah and Nathan, and on things that they want to do. So yeah, I'm more than happy to support and, you know, try and source funding from different areas. And
yeah, I think I'm not sure if you heard earlier on, we were talking about Nathan and Junior's first bark paintings that were painted a few years ago, which are now part of the Kluge-Ruhe collection. I mean, that's a remarkable start to the program, really, isn't it? To have those.
It's something that Nathan and Junior didn't dream of, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, preparing the first bark painting and then it being, you know, being bought by the embassy over there.
Yeah,
that's a good story in itself. You know, these things can happen if you got the right people around you and the right mindset, and participation's good too. So yeah, definitely.
Well, it's a really fantastic sort of cycle of relationship that we're seeing here, and you know, reconciliation. The theme this year for Reconciliation Week is more than a word, and I think in some ways you can summarise that, you know, the support of the embassy in buying those two bark paintings that ended up at the Kluge-Ruhe has really cemented and encouraged more activity in terms of the harvesting back in Peppimenarti. So we've come back around to that relationship in many ways, and here we are in collaboration with the embassy doing a talk into the US from remote, the front deck, the classroom, the cultural classroom of the community of Peppimenarti. I wonder if there might be any questions coming in from the audience. Anything else that you want to say, Henry or Regina? Is there any other comments that you might make, or anything that really stood out for you in terms of your trips to America, or what relationships mean to you in terms of people knowing more about Peppimenarti?
I think for me personally, you know, the direction of, you know, I've actually spoken to you, and you know, I'd like to look into tourism one day. You know, just having that link and, you know, people in different areas would be, you know, be awesome. You know, if we could set up something like that, but you know, that's down the track. But you know, for the community, I think we just go step by step, and hopefully we can build more sustainable and a better relationship with everyone. So.
You lightly touched on cultural tourism there, which I think is something that the community has, you're very interested in that, Henry, and the community seems really supportive. It's something that you want in a sort of small scale, but it's definitely something that is remarkably generous of the community. Every time I've seen some new friends visit the community, this sense of welcoming, this sense of generosity is really strong within the community. I mean, even the welcome that we got here on Zoom, I don't think I've ever seen a ceremonial welcome on Zoom during the last 12 months that I've been Zooming in and out of different places. So it's just remarkable to see that the generosity of the community. Regina, any last words that you want to say before we have a song and dance to conclude the talk?
Share knowledge and culture to. It was a special day for us today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador.
We do have a question, Regina, and Henry, you might also want to jump in on this, but we got a question from an audience here. When people experience your art for the first time, what would you like them to take away from that experience?
So firstly, from my point of view, you know, Peppimenarti and artists, you know, they're always painting about, you know, story that's been passed down from generation to generation, which gives you the right to, you know, paint and tell that story, and, you know, tell everyone, you know, where the story comes from, and you know, transcribed over the years, and you know, so, you know, I'd like them to take away, you know, the history and the story behind of, you know, what the painters are actually thinking at that time when they're painting. So it's that cultural experience, and, you know, just take, you know, to get it all together in the perspective of, you know, your ties to land and culture and language and everything. You know, it comes from a special place, and it's, you know, deep down in people's heart, and yeah, that tells the story of a time, you know, in their head, and yeah, and you know, I'd just like people to take away the cultural knowledge and the story that we'd like to share with everyone, and yeah, just, you know, just have that experience, you know, both ways.
Well said, Henry. Regina, you know, your work and the work of the community is exhibited quite largely all around the country here in Australia, but also internationally. You've done residencies in the US, you've done residencies in Sicily, you've had artists visit your community. You know, when your work is on display at an exhibition, is that a proud moment for you as a community? Is that something that you're really proud to be sharing with the world?
Yeah, I'm really proud to show my work. And what they can see, the painting is from my weaving onto the canvas. For them to see what I do.
You're painting. Sorry, Regina, you go.
Sharing my knowledge and culture to the world. And I'm proud of my work.
I think you should be. I mean, your work is remarkable, and I think it's a great message to many people in the community about sharing the knowledge of Peppimenarti and creating awareness of the community wide. I think is really quite remarkable. So I think Nathan, Jeremiah, Regina, Henry, everybody in the community, you know, thank you so much for today. nice and early start to the day in Peppimenarti. I'd also like to thank Laura and Karen and Ambassador Damien Miller for their generosity in co-hosting this and inviting Durrmu Arts and Peppimenarti to be a part of Reconciliation Week with an audience in the US. Henry, do you want to say a few last words, or Regina, any last little comments before we pass it over to Jerry to sing us out?
I just want to thank everyone out of Peppy, Isabella, Mum, Jeremiah and Nathan, all the dancers there, and everyone participated and made it happen. I'd just like to thank everyone, for making this happen, and yourself, Cara, and my good friend over in Washington there, Henry Scarrett. I'd just like to thank everyone for putting in effort in making this happen.
Right. We should remember. Sorry, Isabella, do you want to stick your head in and say a quick hello? Isabella's running the manager of the Art Centre there and has been very instrumental in helping put the. Hi, Isabella. Thank you so much.
No problem. Pleasure.
Thank you, Leah. I see you there as well. Thank you so much. And amazing for you guys to continue that great work of cultural classes on the deck. And I'll be sure to share, the results of that with the embassy, those earrings and those beautiful things that the kids are making. So if you don't already follow Durrmu Arts on Instagram or Facebook, it's one of the best channels to see what's going on in the community. There's lots of activities. There's lots of short films. There's lots of artist portraits. It's a remarkable sort of window into what is a really powerful and culturally rich community. Thank you so much, Regina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate, one more song to say mama to the audience.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Mama. Come on now. What be on the lawn, Kate? On the grass. You're now with kinder and dance that too noisy, yeah?
Yes, it does.
Hey, sing it.
Like to the audience over. This is recorded. I can send it around later.
Okay. She's been waving on our
Yeah, they've been.
Thank you so much, everybody. Magnificent. We could listen to you singing all afternoon. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, they can listen to you singing all night.
Okay, thank you all.